Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Voxology Podcast. Tim Stafford here with Mike Erre. Welcome to the show. We're so glad that you are tuning in and allowing us access into part of your day. We have one word for you today, and that word is Gombis.
Boom.
Yep. And so we have a great conversation with him about unity in the church and disunity in the church. You're going to want to stay tuned for that. But I want to say a couple of thank yous. First, I want to say thank you to Catherine and Nathan and Amy for coming on the Patreon team. Man, so grateful for people like you who see value in what we're doing. We are crowd-funded 501c3 nonprofit, and we are, is it 501c3? Yeah, 501c3 nonprofit. And so...
Sounds like a Star Wars robot.
501c3PO? Yes. Anyway, so we're super grateful. So thank you for that. You can go to patreon.com and type in Voxology Podcast. Also, we need your emails. If you want to be surveyed, do it
through the website.
Yeah, go through the website, Voxology
Don't email
Podcast.
us and say, I'd like to be on it. Go and register.
Go to voxologypodcast.com, and at the bottom is a place you can throw us your email. No spam here. We're just going to hit you with a survey, as we're meeting in January/February to make some more longer-term plans about the podcast. And we'd love to test some of our assumptions about who's listening, and that would be a great gift to us. So thank you for that. We've got loads of conversation with Gombis, so we'll get right to it. Until next time, friends, thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us the star of the Wanderer podcast. We have dueling Tims here today.
I'm here too.
Timothy Gombis.
Tim, your intros were so great. I love those.
Yes, all 3 episodes of The Wanderer. And who knows? There could be other versions in the future. We're totally open to the Spirit's leading in regards to the intersection of music and theology. Mr. Gombis, how are you doing this morning? Hello, great to see you.
Yeah, good to see you guys. I'm great.
And it's not this morning. Did you look at your clock right there?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. It's just afternoon where you are. It's morning where we are.
Yeah. It's late in the day. It's late in the day. I was up early.
What time did you get up this morning?
Around 2:30.
Okay. Perfect.
Got to bed early.
How early?
What's early though?
How early?
About 10 o'clock or so.
Oh, that's not that much.
Good. 4.5. Solid 4.5 last night.
Yeah.
Excellent. And then what time did you leave for the walk?
About 10 to 6.
So what did you do for almost 4 hours? 3 hours?
I'm reading a book that I've been wanting to get to for a long time. I just finished a book, tried to get into another, and it was boring me to death. So I got into this one called Taking America Back for God.
Yeah.
The book about Christian nationalism.
Yeah. Samuel.
Yeah, just really interesting.
White.
Yeah.
Whitehead. Andrew Whitehead and Samuel
Perry.
Something. Perry, yes.
Yeah. So I started on that for an hour or two, and then, got out, started walking.
If you are, so Tim has a podcast called Faith Improvised. And if you've been following along lately, you know that Tim has been single-handedly waging war against quipping culture. And quipping are just you're passing somebody on your walk. Somebody says something, you have to respond with a quip. And Tim has prophetically stood against this. Can we just get an update today? Were they out?
No, they weren't.
They weren't out.
No, they did not see them today. It was there's a chance of rain, and I think that separates people who are serious and people who just are posers,
recreational,
casual walkers.
Oh yeah, yeah. I have to say, I always comment on the weather if anybody wants to say anything.
Yeah,
it's because it's serious. If you are walking outside throughout the year in West Michigan, you need to know how warm or cold it's going to be, and you need to know how to dress. So it's like, all right, make a comment about the weather.
What's your go-to? Like, what's your go-to comment?
Getting cooler today. Okay. Bit colder this morning.
Right.
That's
so
it.
3 words.
Yeah. All you need to do, that's it. And that's not an invitation for further discussion. This guy, there's a couple that walks, and this guy, he says things that invite further discussion, which drives me bananas. Because it's like I've got a brisk pace, and I want to stay on pace, and I'm thinking about my own stuff. And this one day, I'm not kidding, this drove me bananas. He commented, this is so bizarre, I just feel slimy even saying it. He commented on my posture. He said something about, you have such good posture as you walk. And I was like, dadgummit, listen, it's actually cultivated. I think about that a lot. I think about my posture. And so I wanted to say, all right, well, there's actually something behind this. Right. I'm about to turn 50. I want to take care of myself. And so like when I walk, I put my shoulders back. And so there's my thoughts. They're running in that direction. And I want to stop them and say, well, I want to explain about posture and all this kind of stuff. And he's a bit bent over. So I'm like, anyway, I don't like it when there's a comment that invites further reflection or discussion, because it's like, no. So do you know what I'm saying? I want to think about what I'm thinking about. I don't want to think about trying to explain to him, well, there's a lot behind that. And when I walk, I do think about my posture actually.
Well, now, why isn't just thank you an option there in that social setting? Just thank you, and you just keep going.
I hadn't thought of that.
Okay.
All right.
How much brain space then did that interaction take up post his comment?
Enough to generate resentment. I was like, yeah, I should have just said thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I always feel like I want to explain. And I don't know, and I should just say, yeah, okay.
Yeah. All right.
Yours is average.
Appreciate that.
Yours needs work.
Yeah.
I could have said that.
Yeah. That would shut down the quipping for future.
Yeah, totally.
Future
my
clips.
word. Yeah. There's two groups of walkers that don't get it.
Okay.
And when I pass them by, I just think I try to speed up my pace and to indicate with my body, don't bother me.
It's like you could do a whole podcast episode on Enneagram numbers and exercise.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So this is how 4s do their thing. Do not bother me.
So what are the two?
It's enough stress
groups?
to be seen. I don't want to be seen. So it's like, I just leave me alone. I don't know. I'm sure there are some types that want to stop and have a chat.
Yeah.
7s.
Are you okay with a nod? Like I nod. I'm a nodder. Like I see you and I'm not going to pretend you're not there.
Yeah. No, I don't nod. I do the slightly, kind of like the Harley Davidson wave, like when Harleys pass each other on the road, they do that slight, finger point, kind of casual thing to the side.
Yeah.
I'm sort of like that, like just slight wave, put my hand up. I see you, have a good day.
Yeah.
Casual. It's like, act like you've been there. Yeah. We're on the walking path. It's okay.
It's not my first walk.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like, whoa, here we are. No, just settle down.
Is there a, do you notice that he will talk more if you have headphones in, or talk less if you have headphones in? I mean, is it worth just wearing headphones even if they're not on?
Yeah, about 23% of the time I have my headphones in. I'm listening to something,
and he will.
But you can't see it from afar.
Oh,
you know what I mean? It's like they're smallish and they're just earbuds. So I feel like I want to point to them and signal, like, don't bother me. I'm listening to something involved.
Right. What if you wore like Bose headphones?
Yeah,
I mean, that would
I've actually thought of that. Yeah, Sarah's got some, and I thought about looking like I work at the airport, and that would signal. But it's just for that one couple, and it's
then
not
take
worth
them
it.
off, and then
it's
take
not
them
worth
off.
it. But see that I've actually had them in before, and they've said something, and I've needed to stop and take them out, and it's like, you're killing me here. And then I put them back in, and then I've got to rewind 15 seconds to get to where I was. And then when you put them back in, it's like they're the touch sensitive ones that I don't know. And I end up just cussing.
Yeah.
I wear my earbuds in the grocery store with nothing on.
Wow.
Just to avoid. And now, I'm the only person in the grocery store still wearing a mask, but I'll do it probably forever now.
Yeah.
because I can just coast through the aisles and no one quite knows who I am. And the earbuds, they won't ask me any questions, and I just shop.
That's the best.
And I leave.
That is the best. Yeah, a grocery store casual conversation is probably more stressful because then it's like you've got to stop and talk. Like, what do you talk about?
And then what if you go down the same aisles together? What if you see each other multiple times?
Worse. There's nothing more stressful. It's like, yes, Susan, we're both here at the grocery store. I'll probably see you Sunday. There's nothing to talk about. What do you need? What can I do for you? You know?
Oh, there you are again. Noodles, huh?
Yeah. You know, just the felt need to say something. There's nothing that drives me more bananas. I'd rather make it as awkward as can be. So it's just like, yeah, next time Susan runs into me, she's just not going to attempt anything.
You know, a lot of the times I would respond to people on hikes with like lines from random movies or random lyrics. Based on whatever they said to me, and I just say the one line and keep walking.
Oh yeah,
the dude abides.
Yeah, it confuses. They have no idea. There's no entertainment for them, but I get a kick out of it.
Yeah, born and raised in South Detroit.
That's right.
Take me down to Paradise City.
That's it, and do it with like really wide eyes, so that they just think you're.
And you say it kind of confidently, like, "Oh yeah, you know, can't rain all the time."
Well,
I try to signal that I'm just slightly off, so that they, they don't want to,
Just speak like Yoda, and then they're like, "All right, cool, see you."
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like I don't like people. It's just like, not here. I'm here to get eggs.
Nah, I think you don't like people. I mean, what's one scenario where people are liked?
Oh, the problem is it's an aversion to small talk. So it's like
that's exactly what it is.
It's like, okay, Susan, we're here in the grocery store.
Yep.
Do you want to talk? All right, then this is going to be 15 minutes. Do you know what I mean? And it's not going to be small talk. What do you need to know?
Grab a drink.
It's like, okay, Susan, yes. How am I doing? I'm in crisis right now.
Yeah.
And let me tell you. Let me give you the contours of that. And here's why this means a lot to me, because of my childhood. So it's like,
wow.
I mean, it's like there's only one level. It's not. There's not like.
Okay. So that's the posture conversation. You just can't say thank you. You've got to actually go in to.
We're going deep.
I do actually think about this.
Yeah. Do you want to know? I've thought about this long and hard, and my walking posture. There's a lot behind that. So that's the thing. Okay. It's not like I don't want to talk to him. It's like I'm here to walk, just a wave. If you want to talk, then this is going to be a while.
That's totally like I'll go into a coffee shop and then you have the obligatory like, "Hey, how's your day going?" And I either have to answer that question honestly.
Oh yeah.
That's the only, and for me, that's the most normal way to respond to it.
Yeah.
But if I try to make a joke or something, or do like a base level response based on a base level question, then it gets really awkward.
Oh,
because I'll just try to be funny or say something, and they're just like, "Okay."
Yeah, and then you're left with that feeling like, "Oh,
exactly."
I'm such an idiot.
I was like,
See, I think the previous generation was better trained at this, because my parents have, my mom in particular has certain sort of quips that work in any situation. So, for instance. I had this horrible thing happen today. And she'll say, well, sometimes you get the elevator and sometimes you get the shaft.
Yeah.
And it just,
sometimes you eat the bar,
or something, she's got to do something scary and she'll say, yeah, it scares me and I'm fearless. And then just, it's done.
Yeah. That's what I don't have.
Finer than frog hair. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, what was that one?
Yeah.
Finer than frog hair.
That's
no
awesome.
idea. No idea.
Yeah. I need a catalog of those.
Yes.
And I don't have them, because I'm like Tim. It's like, how you doing today? And I'm like, well, below average. I don't know. I take an assessment of how I'm doing, and then I answer. It's not like, oh, great, how are you? It's like, yeah, I'm fair. How are you?
Do you really want to know? No. Why'd you ask me?
That's so great.
I want to destroy something beautiful right now. How are you?
Is there a puppy I can kick somewhere? Is there anything?
Yeah, I'm filled with rage. How are you? I don't know.
Well, that's
genius.
Yeah, dear listener, that was a deep dive you never knew you wanted or needed into the to the depths of theology of walking. So, walking and talking. But Tim, we wanted to talk with Tim. There was an article that came out, let's see, at the, I don't know, a couple weeks ago by Peter, how would you pronounce his name?
Wayner?
Thank you.
That's my best guess.
Just making sure. This was in the Atlantic. The evangelical church is breaking apart. Christians must reclaim Jesus from his church. And it's really about how it is that large churches, small churches are just minimally being disrupted, maximally splitting and tearing themselves apart over the kind of the cultural situation we find ourselves in politically, racially, medically, all those sorts of things. And I know as you've been going through Romans in your podcast, you're dealing with a church situation where there are people in some house churches criticizing other Christians who are part of other house churches. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about the limits of unity in Paul's thinking. Paul obviously makes a big deal, and I hear, some Christians saying in these contexts, listen, any talk about politics or anything is just being divisive. We've got to preserve unity, and so I wanted to kind of talk about what for Paul, what is unity? Why does it matter? And then what are the boundaries of it, if any, as we were seeing, this fragmentation happen in the church as we see it happening in culture?
Yeah, I think those are good questions. What do you mean? What are the boundaries of it or the limits of it?
Well, is there a point at which unity talk isn't the greatest value, and you begin to, So for instance, if you're a pastor, one of the things the article references is that loads of pastors are quitting because of the work environment is so hostile.
Yeah.
So let's say you are encouraging your congregation to wear masks. There are people who are nuts about not wearing masks, and they are just continually troublesome and perpetually divisive. Does unity require, hey, we want to be a safe place for mask wearers and non-mask wearers? Or do you make a determination and sort of, go forward without regard to the unifying consequences? Does that make it clear?
Yeah, I think it's there are so many issues that lie underneath that question or that issue, and it seems to me that they all go to a failure to understand really what it means to be Christian, and so to be unified is really it's basically Paul's ultimate value. It's not like it's super important. It's like the thing, because I'm just thinking through the letters. In Romans, 1st, 2nd Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, on and on all the way through. Like, that's the thing that he wants, because in the ancient world, just like today, there are groups that come together naturally based on some interest in the world. And it could be completely not having to do with anything moral or not. Like, people come together because they like the same football team or whatever, Ohio State tailgate parties or something like that.
That's what I'm talking about.
And been to a few of those. And there's nothing good or bad about that. There's nothing inherently sort of Christian about that kind of thing, even though we all love people that we can rally around something, a common interest together with. But when God creates these new communities that are, what he has done is he's brought together, just like the 12 disciples. He brings groups of people together that on any earthly basis, it cannot be explained. Why is this group of people together? Because you've got noblemen, slaves, laborers, people from different ethnicities that should not be gathered together. But when they gather together around Jesus and loyalty to Jesus, that is the display of God's new creation reality. So if churches actually, within churches, if they rally around a common earthly interest and then gather as church, like they're all the same age group, or they're all the same ethnicity or race, or they're all the same, social location, like they're all suburban white people or something like that. There's Paul would look at a situation like that and would say there's nothing inherently glorifying to God when that group of people gets together. And so, like, lying underneath the current issues that we have is like this fundamental issue, like going all the way back in American history, where white Christians subjugated and enslaved Black people, and over time, over the decades, Black people who were enslaved on American soil became Christian, many of them, and there were divided actually, churches were united. It's just that Black people had to sit, in the back or in what's that thing? Balconies. Yeah. My brain's not clicking. So there was division already there, and so, but now, like you're saying, we have this current situation where you've got people that have so much in common, everything in common, but are sort of searching for something to fight about. Yeah. And I think Wayner's article was put his finger right on it by talking about grievances and cultural resentments, because those are the things that have sort of infected and invaded churches. So there's this kind of style of behaving in public in America that's become quite popular over the last several decades. And that is to sort of almost thump your chest and to set yourself apart based on what you're angry about, and based on like who you resent, or based on who you blame, or whatever. And that's the dynamic I think that's really divisive and troubling churches. But that situation, I'm just trying to get at how that situation is almost like so far down the road. It's not like we have to get that situation sorted out.
Right.
It's like it's built on top of so much misunderstanding of what it means to be Christian. So like, to be Christian is to fundamentally regard your own desires and needs and preferences as less important than those of others. So when we gather as Christian, my propensity to vote for this or that political party should be like no part of my personal identity. My propensity to wear a mask or not should be so just not a part of my my identity. My identity is Christian, and whatever it takes for us to actually inhabit Christ together and to sort of share together joyfully, whatever it takes for that to happen, I will do. I will sort of set aside my own personal interests. I guess I would think about it in these terms. The unity of the church is so important that 1 Corinthians 3:16 and 17, Paul says that the gathered church is the temple, the dwelling place of God by His Spirit. And if anyone destroys the unity of the temple, God will destroy that person. So if you think in terms of if my preferences or proclivities or earthly loyalties or whatever drive a wedge between me and anybody in this community, or make me an agent of division at all in this community, I'm putting myself in God's crosshairs. Like there's something that God will judge on the day of Christ, and that is agents of division within His church. Mm-hmm. And if you take 1 Corinthians 11 seriously, that's the reason why people in Corinth are getting sick and dying. Right. So it's like, so I think about it this way. Agents of division in churches put themselves in danger of being killed by God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the teaching of the New Testament.
That's insane. That's really troubling,
But how do you balance that then with calling out Christian nationalism, or the fact that there are large segments of evangelicalism that refuse to either have a conversation about, or if they have a conversation about it, it's, purely defensive about race. How does unity operate in those situations?
Yeah, I think we have to be, well, I'm talking as somebody who just shows up to church. I'm not a pastor or church leader or anything like that. I think there's a sense in which we have to be delicate. We have to be careful. One of the difficulties is once you start seeing the problems that affect our churches, one of the temptations is to sort of solve those problems by resorting to strength or denunciation or verbal violence or push people too hard. But we always have to proceed with caution, proceed slowly, carefully, love people, stay in a posture of invitation and good conversation. But if I were a pastor, I think I would want to talk at length about loyalty to Jesus, loyalty to the Lord Jesus, what that looks like in practice, how that's embodied by participating in community life, and then talk about the loyalties in the world that compete with that and what that looks like. So, and the agents of that loyalty competition. So, talking about Fox News or talking about, voices on the left and the right that try to divide us and to see the other as dangerous or deficient or deluded, and do a lot of reflection on how that works on us and how we're sort of driven to take pride in any kind of other identity other than our identity in Christ. Yeah, I think I'd want to talk at length about those kind of dynamics and then raise the particular issues and then talk about anger and resentment and suspicions of people who are other than what we are, and get at all of these kinds of things, because those are the things that will keep us from being faithfully Christian. And I'd want to get at how, just thinking about this morning, when Paul goes through his vice lists, like in, say, Galatians 5, I mean, he sets the works of the flesh are like outbursts of anger. And that it's like, you should look at the vice list. It's really funny, actually, where he's got, jealousies, outbursts of anger, malice,
factions,
orgies, witchcraft. And you're like, wait a minute. There's like a gradation here, of like things that are heinous evils, but it's like, no, for Paul, I mean, all of these are outrages.
Right.
And I would love to see our churches recover, or actually discover how it is that jealousies and kind of factionalism and competing groups, that these are, when Paul looks at community life, he sees this as evidence that the present evil age is at work, that satanic powers are at work among us if we have outbursts of anger or grievances or resentments. That stuff is really troubling. I'm looking at it. It's sexual immorality, impurity, and debauchery. So those are some big words. Yeah.
Then it's idolatry and witchcraft. That's big.
Yeah.
And then hatred, discord, jealousy, fits of rage, selfish ambition, dissensions, factions, and envy.
Yeah. Yeah. Think about factions.
Yes.
Think about, selfish ambition is not merely, I want to be the one up front. Selfish ambition is, I want my party to be the dominant one, or like my sub-clique, my subgroup in this church. I want us to be the dominant one, or those of us who are more conservative, I want us to be seen as the smarter ones, or that are more liberal, or whatever it is. So selfish ambition is like loyalty to a subgroup within the church and agitating for ascendancy. And that's what we see in our churches. So totally. I think it'd be worth it to recognize that, like, the work of hostile cosmic powers is being done, and our churches are falling prey. That's really troubling.
Yeah.
I think it'd be great to recover the beauty and the wonder of repentance and confession of sin, and come to see these as massively problematic. So yeah, there's just so much anger simmering in our culture. And when that kind of stuff gets into the church, and it's been there a long time.
Yeah, that's not new.
Yeah, I mean, going back to, the first century, because this is how we'll do things. We've got this wonderful thing called being the church, and our tendency is, how do we turn this into something that's good for me and my group?
Boy, that is so true.
You know?
So part of what I hear you saying is, and there are a couple of really big points in here. One is these are symptoms, not roots. And so the root issues trace all the way back to misunderstanding what it is to be Christian. And then it's still, even in the midst of discussions that can be hard or polarizing, we're still invited to be cruciform in the way we posture ourselves in those.
Yeah.
Right? That we're leading with invitation, we're not coercive, we're not angry, those sorts of things.
Yeah, I think it's actually fundamentally important to understand that being Christian in a church community is a political reality. So it's not necessarily that what's wrong is when the gospel gets politicized or whatever. But when the gospel, which is a political reality, gets hijacked by alternative political allegiances, so like the church is a political entity. It's the body politic of Christ gathered together to do the political behaviors of loving one another, serving, strategizing for hospitality, meeting each other's needs, doing lots of listening, celebrating, lamenting, all of that. And the political behaviors are the kinds of things that have to be cultivated to maintain unity, because that's the ultimate value. So what speech patterns do we need to develop? What eating habits do we need to develop? And do we need to eat together more often and share life together more often, more regularly and routinely? And to see alternative political behaviors as speech patterns that are abusive and divisive, or when anger settles into my heart or our hearts and becomes resentment at that other group of people, and I develop speech patterns of sarcasm or denunciation or dismissiveness. Those are political behaviors that are antichrist.
Right.
So if I'm, reading sources that are talking about economic theory or, political policy or whatever, that make me regard other people in my church with suspicion or with dismissiveness, like I am now a political actor that is disloyal. That's being traitorous. I'm being treasonous in the political reality of the body politic of Jesus. So, I mean, I'd love to see pastors talk more about the demonic character of anger. When there's anger that settles into church bodies, Paul says in Ephesians 4, that's how Satan establishes a beachhead to attack the church, through anger.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. And James talks about that in terms of demonic wisdom. So I think we have to go after that.
So on a street level in Stafford, I know this is something that we wrestle with, so chime in here. So when we see other Christians beholden to a political identity in ways that provoke violence and outrage and grievance, and we go back to what it is to be Christian and whatever else, and there's just no progress at all in those conversations, except there's more anger and more sometimes just people will leave without any regard for whatever. When does unity confront directly some of the anger stuff? And I know you're saying, I know you're not saying that it doesn't ever, but there's such I just see unity either being used as a call to not talk about disagreement at all, or it's so poorly valued that there is just my role as a Christian is to fight for whatever my tribal identity is telling me is biblical, and that's my job to judge everybody else. So on both sides there are errors. And so on the side that says, well, unity means we never confront stuff. How do you see that playing out in some of the specific circumstances? So if you have people that are engaging in old creation dynamics and bringing those into the church community, and you've tried everything else, the gentle rebuke, the I'm teaching on the bigger issues, and they're just not moving, baby, because they are convinced, that this is the biblical American sort of way. What does unity require then?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think about my church. How would I respond to something like that at my church? Because I do know a lot of Christians that are not part of my church. In a lot of ways, I let so many things go because they're not part of my church body, and I'm overwhelmed by all that. Like, I just don't know. But if it were someone at my church, I think I'd want to sit down. First of all, my basic strategy is to do a lot of listening, ask good questions, communicate how I understand what it means to be Christian, talk about how I see the issue, whatever it is that we're talking about. I also recognize that a lot of these issues and conversations are long-term. So like for example, our currently divided national and church scene with regard to race. We got here over 402 years. So this is not going to be something that we, like, by next week, I want this to be sorted out. I'm still learning, I'm still growing. And so I do a lot of listening, asking good questions. I think, but yeah, where there's belligerence and also in having those kind of conversations, I want to be watchful of myself. I am not, I want to be very careful of the attitudes that develop in me. I want to be very careful. This is sort of a tendency to not speak sarcastically, to not speak in ways that will put off or that will shut down further conversation. I don't want to speak in ways that are denunciatory or dismissive. And I don't want to develop ways of thinking about other people that are characteristic of those kind of really degrading kinds of attitudes. But honestly, if I were in a church situation where there was belligerence and sort of a calcification of a posture, I think I would want to address it as being as serious as it is. Like those kinds of attitudes, that kind of way of participating in community life, according to Scripture, is a way that is ruled out and puts you and us in danger of judgment. I think I'd also want to talk about how it is that any of our ideas and attitudes that come from the world, like from out there, like say ways of thinking that I have about universal healthcare or not, or whatever my thinking is on that out there. What I want to understand about that for myself is that is, I might have an opinion about that, but I have to learn to value that so little with reference to the ultimate value of holding together the unity of the church and playing my role in that. And if I had a friend or a conversation partner that had such strong opinions about public policy that they were being a destructive effect in community life, that's fatal. And I'd want to address it that way. And those are complicated conversations, but I just would want to say these are ways of talking about these other people in our church that are just ruled out. Can't have it. Thankfully, the church that I'm in is in such bad shape that these are not really issues. I'm grateful for that. I really think, I think one of the challenges here is, I think it would be good for pastors to play this kind of thought experiment. Why would I not confront somebody who's being a divisive agent? and then and be honest and sort of sit back and think about that. I think it's probably because one of the main values that we have in modern church life is to not drive away any giving units. You know what I mean? This is how the church, this is how I make my salary. I don't want to make anybody angry so that they'll leave. And so to me, I would do the work at that level.
Yeah.
What's going on there? How do I need to maybe orient my ministry to free myself up so that I could actually be pastoring this church faithfully?
Yeah, Stafford, you've got. I know this is a big pressing issue for you. What are you sitting here thinking?
I have no anger in me at all.
But sarcasm.
That is sarcasm. See, I'm already off to the wrong foot. The section that I highlighted from the article that I thought was poignant to the whole thing that provoked questions in me was, what we're seeing is a massive discipleship failure caused by a massive catechesis failure. And this is someone else speaking, James Ernest. The evangelical church.
My wife's
in the
he
US,
works with my wife.
Oh, really?
Bam.
Anyway, whatever, sorry.
The evangelical church in the U.S. over the last 5 decades has failed to form its adherents into disciples. So there's a great hollowness. All that was needed to cause the implosion that we have seen was a sufficiently provocative stimulus, and that stimulus came. So I hear what you're saying with it took us on race, took us 400 years to get here. It takes who knows how long to come out of that. And you think about, he also mentions the how does he say it? Like the indoctrination that happens, you get a sermon for an hour a week, you get talk news every single day, nonstop. So it's just basic logic to look at the scales of what's going to influence you more than the other thing. So what is is it just because there is teaching, or there are things that happen in the church that are causing immediate pain and immediate harm to people, and if we play the long game on it, there will be a lot of casualties along the way. Is it just,
can you give an example?
I'm trying not to.
Oh, okay.
But I think even on issues like race and just socioeconomics or anything like that, if there's a teaching or because we're seeing now, before we started recording, I was saying to Mike, anytime we talk about problems with the church, we'll get pushback that oh, you're looking at the big churches, but most churches are okay. And in my town, it's a small town, and most of the churches have been have had pretty hard splits this year or the last couple of years. So it's it is affecting, for me, it's affecting most of the churches. And it's coming down to this emboldened population that just says, we want it done this way, do it this way, or else. And so the 29% or whatever the article said, 29% of pastors have either quit or are thinking about quitting over the last couple of years. That's that's almost a third. Mm-hmm. So it's is it a matter, because I hear you're saying some of the similar things, it's a lack of discipleship. It's a lack of imagination, right? We have not been forming people in the ways of what it means to be Christian for so long that we've landed here. Mm-hmm. But we are here. So is it just a matter of course correction, or how do we? The unity thing, I think, is just an interesting question, because I don't know how to coexist currently with brothers and sisters. I feel angry and a little bit off center. For example, my wife is, if you're in education, you're dealing with crazy school boards right now. Parents who are saying we're backsliding on things that can be spoken about in schools. And I can't imagine what that's like for people of color, and I can't imagine what that's like for a myriad of different things. But the buzzwords that they're not allowed to say in the classroom right now are pretty incendiary. Or no, they're not. They're very it's racism, or just words that are part of culture and part of our nomenclature. But she was going to teach the Crucible, so we watched the movie, the Daniel Day-Lewis Winona Ryder movie last week, and I had not read the Crucible or watched anything in 25 years or something. So I was a teenager approaching however the teacher presented it. When you're a teenager, it's mostly like, this is about witches, and how crazy is that? Now it's like you're carrying 25 years of life and wisdom with you, and you're like, that movie messed me up. And I was like kind of spinning for a few days, but because the elements of the witch hunt and the church and the selfish ambitions and all that kind of stuff is so prevalent now. It's like, man, that story like hits way too close to home. And I don't know how to exist within that mess. Because I either have to, like, my tendency is like, I just want to go and I will walk to the door, open the door and say, hey, this is wrong. And pick a fight. And I know that's not the right way to operate all the time, but I don't know what else to do. I'm at a loss with, like, the article was great because I like, yeah, this is all correct. And then what? Like, if you guys open up the Bible right now, let's say you could wipe the board clean, the church board clean, and you look at just scripture, just Jesus teaching, what Paul's saying about the church or whatever, how would you build the church now?
Well, yeah, that's a great question, Tim, because there's like, if you actually take just the scriptures, I guess I would say it this way. We wouldn't know much about Paul if there were no problem churches.
Right.
We would. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, if this were not an abiding problem, we would have one letter from Paul.
Yeah. He's like, great job, guys.
Yeah, or three. But it's like, there's just nothing but this. And to me, I'm talking mostly from my little church community that I'm part of. It's a really broken, beat up people, which is just the perfect situation for rich fellowship. But I don't know. To my mind, it takes a lot of creativity. If I were in leadership or responsible care or a pastor, it really is the case that, like what you said, Tim, is so true. It's like the crisis moment is only the revelation of the fact that we were not prepared for this crisis moment. So it's like we have to prepare ourselves constantly in sort of peacetime, so that when the bomb drops, we respond from our training, and we are responding from our training,
right?
And our lack of it. But even now, it's never hopeless as long as God's resurrection power is at work. And what I would want to do is think from what unleashes resurrection power. It is always the cross. It's always taking a cross-shaped posture. So if I were a pastor, I think I'd want to just take this on myself and not talk about, I would not talk in terms of you. I would talk in terms of we, because it's a church, right. It's a body of Christ problem. So I would never set myself over against other people. And I think I would just pull the fire alarm and just say, we have a problem. We are in the crosshairs of God's judgment because we're a divided people. I think I would prepare for a Sunday morning, get up, everything is business as usual, and just say, we're not doing business as usual here, because this business as usual, so that you will all give your money, is putting us in danger of judgment. Something's got to change here with us. We have to change. And I would stay in that posture of invitation, but I would stay in it with strength, not power, human power coming against other people, but with courage, that if I maintain that place on my cross and maintain that posture of invitation and do it with nerve, confident that God will bless it, I think that only good things can come from that. I think I would want to call out the sources of division, call out the dynamics in the church body that are destructive and that are antichrist. And I think I'd want to make provision for the future for myself personally, knowing that this could be it.
Right.
I could have a bunch of people just say, all right, you're done. Thank you. We want business as usual. We want to be entertained for 90 minutes on a Sunday morning, get back to our lives of anger and bitterness. I think I would just have to be prepared for it. I think I want to shape my own imagination to be ready for the church to get small, for a bunch of people that are going to leave it. I would want to have for myself a vision of what faithfulness to Jesus looks like, and be ready to absorb the cost that that may bring, by being seen as a turncoat to my own people, traitorous or whatever, or being soft. But yeah, there's nothing that, it's not like cruciformity is being passive and being a doormat. You could be cruciform and alarmist and just say, look, we all got off our crosses because we're trying to put each other on crosses. And that's not how this works.
Right.
I think it just takes somebody to call it out and talk about this is unacceptable. And I think it would also, it's also a great idea for churches to be in crisis for a while. Like no more sermons for 2 months. And every Sunday morning, every Wednesday night, we're going to get together and discuss the centrality of how we stay together as a put together by God community, and what are the sources of that being pulled apart, and how can we do this, and what are the loyalties clawing at our hearts, and what's driving us to be at each other's throats. Like this is not acceptable. We can't go on. I mean, this is actually what Paul says in 1 Corinthians 11. It would be better if you stopped gathering as church. Just don't do it, because God is killing you for your divisions between rich and poor, and the fact that you are shutting out the poor. I don't think there's any reason to just not pull the alarm and just say we got to, things have to change as of this morning.
Yeah.
You mentioned the powers and principalities that are kind of unleashed through our anger. And we got a question from somebody who doesn't understand that language. So I want to read the question, but it's obviously incredibly relevant to what we're talking about. But this person says, I've been struggling with Ephesians 6:12, and I've heard it referenced in sermons, and I've heard Mike use it. I have a hard time with this verse. I don't think powers and principalities are defined anywhere else in Paul's texts. I feel like the verse can be misapplied. Whatever we feel can be powers and principalities. I think Tim Gombis has works on Ephesians that I will be reading. Bam.
There you go.
Looking to see if anyone could share what powers and principalities means and how it should be applied. So let's take this operative case of anger within the church. How should we understand? Because there are people that are seeing demons, freaking everywhere. Every problem is a deliverance problem, right? So if we just prayed the right prayer, confront the right demon, or know the demon's name or whatever, we can take care of all this stuff. Is that what Paul means when he says powers and principalities?
Yeah, great question. No, it's not. So it's really helpful to look around in the literature around Paul's time, the way that Jews would have talked about spiritual entities. And it seems like from the New Testament vision of things, as far as like powers of darkness, maps really well onto loads of the Jewish texts that we find from the first century. So there are these demonic entities, but your demons or unclean spirits affect individuals in the New Testament. The powers and authorities, or the rulers of this present darkness, the principalities, they go by a variety of terms in the New Testament, and they're everywhere in Paul. Those are these kind of like large macro entities that affect cultures. They don't work on individuals. They kind of orient cultures so that cultures are kind of set against each other. What's interesting in the Jewish text is that they sort of inject into human cultures destructive ways of life that will lead to ultimate destruction. So their aim is to basically corrupt human cultures and mindsets and ideologies and those kind of things, so that human cultures will walk in sinful behaviors and bring themselves to destruction. So like
an example would be white people are superior. That's an idea.
It's an idea that has like 18,000 kind of like sub it affects us in our prejudices and what we think are, good spaces and bad spaces, good schools, bad schools, all that kind of stuff. Like this ethnicity is better than that ethnicity. That shows up in loads of Jewish texts, where one of the things that the principalities and powers do is that they inflame tribalism and nationalism. So for a certain tribe to see itself as ascendant over another tribe. So I think you can map onto that pretty easily our current divisions. My political party is better than your political party. Those kind of ideas, mindsets, the passions that are stirred on the basis of those, that's the work of the powers of darkness. Also, the range of idolatries are inserted into creation by the powers and authorities. Following after, blindly following after sensuality is one of the things that they have stirred up within culture. Those kind of the degraded forms of life that are available, and the degraded ways of thinking that make us think about other humans as less than human. All of those are patterns. They're social patterns, cultural patterns that are inserted into the world by the powers of darkness. So we don't go to battle them individually, but like that person was asking about, when in Ephesians 6, Paul says, put on the full armor of God, he's talking to churches, as a whole, not individuals. They need to sort of grow up into the character of God himself. So put on the character, the virtues of God, so that they can stand against those kind of cultural patterns. So the church should look out on cultural patterns that are destructive. So divisions over political party loyalty, angry denunciation of others, ethnocentrism or xenophobia, all these kind of cultural patterns that are destroying America right now. The church should look out on those, identify them, and discern how the church culture is being affected by them, and then get rid of those kind of patterns of thought, the behaviors that come from them, and put on the character of Christ, put on the character of God. That's the church's spiritual warfare. So it relates directly to this larger issue of cultural resentments, because what Peter Wehner is pointing out is that there are so many ways of life that evangelicals have taken on that are well cultivated, that have actually made us susceptible to the corruptions sown into the world by the powers and authorities. Like, we've adopted those ways of life. So, we are split into Black churches, white churches, Hispanic churches, Asian churches. We've already been divided. In my own cultural heritage of, white evangelicalism, you go back to the cultural resentments that are laced within, like, Billy Sunday's preaching. Like his preaching was pure grievance. And there are loads of preachers like that, where you pick up that note of grievance. Like, I'm thinking about somebody as particular as like John MacArthur. You get that attitude and that sort of grievance, where, liberals or progressives or whatever are wrong and they get denounced and that kind of thing. It's like evangelical culture, by and large, like since the 20s or the 10s, has been shaped by this kind of voice of grievance or resentment, a demonization of those people out there, and why you should just trust me or just trust this community and not listen to other people. So when someone like the previous president comes along, evangelical culture was already prepared for about 100 years to hear that voice of grievance and anger and resentment and just say, yeah, that's our guy. But that kind of grievance and anger, especially anger, this is why Paul in Ephesians, which is the powers and authorities, play such a big role in his portrayal of things. This is why he says there in Ephesians 4, take care of anger. In your anger, do not sin. And what I mean is, do not give the devil a beachhead, because that's how the powers of darkness invade the church when there's that kind of cultural grievance. It's really bad. It's interesting too, when you read the pastorals, the kinds of people that Paul tells Timothy and Titus to look out for are people who are angry and who want to find obscure passages of scripture to argue about. And it's like, in my heritage, we found people who wanted to argue about obscure passages of scripture and said, let's send him to seminary. He'll be a great pastor someday. So it's like, because my heritage was so shaped by anger.
Yeah.
There's something highly problematic about that, but it goes back decades, but it can stop. And we could see how it is that anger and resentment and suspicion of people who are different than us, that those are all ways that the powers and authorities get their hooks in us.
I have such a hard time though, judging the judgers. I mean, with somebody like MacArthur or Driscoll, or Piper. I mean, I'm personally opposed.
You hear it in his voice too.
But then how do I have grievance with them without being a person of grievance?
Yeah. I think it's possible. I think it's possible to say, you can hear the grievance in their voice, and that's a tragedy. And I am a human as well, and I know how hard it is to sort of daily root that stuff out of my heart.
Yeah.
And it affects me too. I'm in it. I'm not the one who has the answer. This is why I try to say as much as possible. I try to use plural first person pronouns when we talk about all this. Like we. This is a we problem. It's not a you or a them problem.
Yeah.
It's like this affects us all. We're all in it, and we have to cultivate alternative ways of thinking and feeling and being. Like when Paul talked about putting on a heart of compassion, to me, I'm always thinking about, and this is why the cultural analysis piece for me is helpful. And I don't just say, yeah, those people are bad. The cultural analysis part for me is helpful because I can look back on the cultural patterns that have produced this in people. It's a way of me standing in solidarity with the people that are in my inherited culture. Like, we had this happen to us. This was done to us. This is not something that's wrong with my neighbor, Bill. This is something that affects all of us, and like, we can change it. I vote differently than Bill. But my goodness, if Bill ever needed anything, I'd be there for him. I'd choose to talk about anything and everything but him, or about those issues. He's not at my church. Knowing that there are ways of talking and speaking and relating that are fruitful and life-giving.
Yeah.
But I also think that there's something important about regarding with great compassion and solidarity our fellow Christian people. And there's something important about naming explicitly the voices that have set themselves up as authorities and are actually weaving and that are actually sort of stirring up this resentment in culture. So, authority figures who do this, like Franklin Graham or Jerry Falwell Jr. and loads of others that are responsible for hijacking hearts and minds. I think it's important to name that.
Is this I'm a very emotional person, if you guys haven't figured that out. And so I'll respond emotionally to things. So when you're talking about the way in which we react, like the grievance to the grievance or whatever, and I'm just like, well, I know that I have to take a breath. I have to think critically about the conversation I'm about to engage in. I have to be repentant first and foremost with whatever my posture is going into the conversation. Like, these are the active things that I do to try to not bring a baseball bat to a baseball bat, right? Try to enter into that conversation. But so the article is very, in a lot of ways, it's a macro view of these issues. Is the answer? I'm trying to distill it down for everyone that's listening. That's like, well, geez, what do we do? Is the answer on a micro level, or is it just learn to do this in your community, and if all communities do that, then a transformation happens? Is that the road that we're on?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that this is where I disagree with Wayner, as far as evangelical churches, blah, blah, blah. There's no such thing as called the evangelical church. The evangelicalism is just this disparate, all it is a marketing demographic. That's all it is. And yes, I think that the only place we can take action is in our community. So whenever I think about being Christian, I think about my church.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't know what will bring about a cultural transformation. I don't expect it at all. At all. I limit my expectations, curb your enthusiasm. I just think all I can do is think about, Andy and Natalie. I'm just going through them, Margaret, all the people at my church that I relate to, and thinking about how do I participate well in the body that I'm attached to. I'm not responsible for the American church. I mean, who's responsible for that? There isn't any sort of entity.
Well, it's like I think we feel responsibility for it. There's an existential dread that comes when you look at the landscape, and possibly that's just being discipled by the news as well, not in a way that it indoctrinates your thinking, but it indoctrinates your emotions, maybe is a way to say that. Like it affects you. I think that's part of that dread.
I think that's intentional. And I also think it's a distraction because you can do nothing about it.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, even if you
it stirs up all the negativity.
Yeah.
And there's no outlet.
And hopelessness and frustration. And it's we do have a voice, via this podcast to sort of make change. I'm not so sure about that. I think it's all right, you can help people have hope as they take action in their community, by adopting postures of love, and patience, and listening, and compassion, and solidarity. And that's where the action takes place in our local communities, and expect nothing more. I mean, this whole larger culture is what's, Paul calls the world, and it's, don't have any expectations of it. But my micro community that I belong to is a little outbreak of heaven, and I'm going to do what it takes to enjoy resurrection life with that community. You can't be responsible for anything else, and you can't affect anything else. This is the lie, I think, of evangelicalism, is that back in the 19 and 20s, when denominational leaders that had ecclesial structures, they sort of left those behind and started forming these networks in order to kind of be invited to each other's conferences and expand their platform and become prominent and bring in money and all that kind of stuff. They imagined that they could actually form these trans-denominational relationships and have an effect on American culture. And what happened over the decades is that they became American culture.
Yeah.
And all the celebritization that it brings and all the money and power that it brings. So it's become this thoroughly worldly reality. I think that mindset, we have to give up on it. We can affect change. How? Yeah. I mean, this is James Davison Hunter's book, To Change the World. You can change hearts and minds, or bring a bunch of individual hearts and minds that are changed will add up to a transformed culture. That is a lie. Doesn't happen. You have to give it up. I think you'll wear yourself out.
It's a pastors and ministers kind of thing. You're spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning, and you're not affecting. It's like you're just spinning on the energy of the negativity, and you don't stop, because that fuel is endless.
Yeah, and also, what if you even turn towards something positive, and you became one of these kind of traveling speakers that just went around and just sort of cast this positive vision. All you're doing is hopping from city to city, from church to church, whereas the work is pastoral, and it's hard, gritty pastoral work to hold together and foster communities over decades. Yeah. This is going to be something that, for our church to experience transformation, let's map this out over 65 years.
Right.
What does that look like? And how do we want to, I couldn't believe this. This was like a 30-year-old said this to me. We were talking about all of these things, and he said, something tells me that what my job is to do is to prepare my son to be a participant in this work. Yeah. Because he said, I'm really hopeless for my generation. And I was like, what if you had a bunch of families in a church that said, we want to see our church be an agent of transformation and to be a site of transformation? What would we, if we wanted to see that fully flourish in 15 to 25 years, what would we do now to prepare our children to enter into that, knowing that we might not be the ones that go into that? What would that look like? I mean, man, you'd probably learn the practices, the slow long-term practices of lament and celebration and self-giving love and all that goes along with that, in home life and in do it as community. And, hopefully it takes place. I don't know.
We don't have time for that, but that's a conversation that I'd love to have with you guys too, is a few people have asked me that in particular about like what does church look like for children? Because the model that we grew up with, for me, was an absolute waste of time, and I remember nothing from it. Yeah, but in respecting the like intellectual fortitude of children, the emotional fortitude of children, and how do you effectively do exactly what you're just saying? Like, I think that's a really interesting conversation that very few people know the answers to. It'd be fun to dig to try to figure out like what is the best way to do exactly that, to set children up for a rich, real, authentic journey. Like, what does that look? I think that's a really interesting that we could learn a ton from. In our own day to day,
Yeah. What if I mean, relating back to this topic, what if you thought we have a problem with confessing sinful attitudes? We have a problem with forgiving each other across lines of cultural difference. We have problems of like frank speech. That's also gracious speech.
Yeah.
Okay, so what if we want, in 15 years, we want our kids to know how to confess sin. We want our kids to know how to forgive.
We just had this conversation last night because one of our friends had a Catholic upbringing, and we were digging through. It was part of a larger conversation, but there's so much that comes with a Catholic background, a lot of baggage that comes with it that you have to kind of sort through. But there are also these things of what does true confession look like and why? So we were trying. That's not part of our culture. Our evangelical culture is not a really key feature. So we were trying to entertain it between adults and then bring it up with the kids in the morning. And it was just awkward. And it was a fumbling conversation, but
totally. It's
a
brutal.
Fascinating one.
Learning the practices of confession of sin in relationship is brutal.
Yeah.
But it's there's nothing more awkward and nothing more unnatural.
Unless you're on a walk.
Oh yeah. But if you had that cultivated, it does become natural over time. And then if you have a situation in which people are verbally abusing each other, to reverse that or to stop it or to to get on a different course involves confession of sin. And if it's a natural thing, you've got it. And what do the practices of forgiveness look like? Like, those have to be cultivated over time. They're hard.
Yeah.
And then once you've agreed to forgive somebody, how do you inhabit together the space of forgiveness? Because forgiveness is like, it's a brutal discipline that has to be sort of maintained because our hearts and minds go back to sort of.
This is great though, because it's exactly what we've been talking about with how the church has gotten to where it's gotten, like how it's been discipled by whatever. And, it's, like you said, 400 years of discipleship that have created the muscles that we now operate with. So what does it look like to start cultivating the correct muscles to work out in the right way to create a body of people that exist in that way?
They can be surprisingly simple.
Yeah.
They don't have to be like, I think we imagine, well, we got to have fireworks. We've got to have, all this high powered stuff in order to transform culture. But it's like, what if we just simplified things? It became people that know how to speak life-giving words. Like, we did that a lot when our kids were young. What do life-giving words sound like? We used to memorize those proverbs about, a harsh word stirs up anger, but a quiet answer, it's like we just talk about this stuff all the time. What does a harsh word sound like? What does my heart feel like when someone speaks to me a harsh word? How do I correct that situation? These are all simple practices that we just we haven't cultivated. And I think that's kind of the way forward. How do we talk to each other? How do we see one another as reservoirs of infinite worth? Like, what's preventing me from seeing someone who differs with regard to policy issues? Why do I see them as this monster? What are the sources of information that I'm listening to that force me to see my brother in Christ this way?
Yeah.
It's good. Well, listen, man, thank you.
Thank you, man.
You are the best.
So fun to kick it around.
Absolutely. And if you're interested in more kicking, You can listen to Tim Gombis and Tim Stafford on our Wanderer kind of midweek episodes, or Mr. Gombis is going through the book of Romans on his podcast, and it's really good stuff. And so I would highly recommend you subscribe to Faith Improvised and give that a listen. That there's not only good stuff in terms of Romans, but there are book recommendations, and then there's a theology of naming cats and of walking and its relationship to equipping.
It's full
total life. It's total life.
There are comments on the weather normally, so it's a full human range.
Everything. This is what you get with an Enneagram 4. Everything's up for grabs. Talk about it all.
All right. So anyway, friends, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you. Talk to you later.
Thank you for listening to this conversation. Voxology is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that is supported by listeners just like yourself. If you'd like to partner with us, you can do so at patreon.com/Voxology. You can also join the community and hang out and chat with us on the socials. Facebook.com/Voxology Podcast and on Instagram @Voxology. Thank you for walking the long road with us.